So I know a lot of you are probably looking at this lesson and going, I know about the signs. And that's great. Having a foundation in it is fantastic, but we're going to look at the signs a little bit differently. If you don't know anything about the signs, perfect. You came to the right place. The thing about when we look at a chart and we're looking at the signs, it's not the same as what you're used to. You're used to the sun in that sign. And so all of the interpretations of that sign that you're used to hearing are about the sun, the core personality, the willpower, where you want to shine, that ego in the Freudian sense. But we have to take each sign and each planet when we start interpreting charts and blending that. So when you get an emotional nature, like the moon, right? And then you're blending that with a sign like Aries, for example. Yes, you still do have that assertive, that fiery, that going first kind of energy, but now we have to apply that energy to an emotional nature. So this does require some critical thinking on your part. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and get into this and look at first the modalities and the elements. So every sign is in one of four elements: earth, air, fire, and water, and is in one of three modalities: cardinal, fixed, and mutable. So the general understanding of the elements is going to be important for you. So earth tends to be steady, grounded, practical. Air is more cerebral, thinking, communicating. Fire is passion, it is initiative, and water is more emotional and fluid, also intuitive. So with that said, we look at the modalities, and modalities are cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Essentially, this is boiling down to what sign brought each season in. Where was that sign when it was absolutely in the middle, the dead middle of that season? And then what sign was kind of on the way out when that season was about to change into a different season? So for our Earth, we have Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn under the Earth modality. For our air energy, we have Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. For our fire, we have Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And for water, we have Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Now, the cardinal signs tend to have the same kind of energy as far as they are starter energies. Cardinal meaning the beginning, the starters. And those are Aries, Capricorn, Libra, and Cancer. The fixed modality includes Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And that fixed energy has a little bit more consistency and stubbornness. And then the mutable signs are Sagittarius, Virgo, Gemini, and Pisces. Mutable meaning changeable, flexible, more adaptable. Sometimes they get a reputation for being a little flaky. Another key thing to remember is what planet is ruling each one of the signs, because those archetypes of the planet are going to carry over a lot in the meaning of each of the signs. So Aries is ruled by Mars, and Mars is the warrior planet. This is the Roman name for the Greek god Ares, the god of war. So Aries people, being this Mars-ruled fire sign, are very aggressive, assertive, dominant kind of. It's a dominant energy. I shouldn't say dominant people, because that would be going back to the sun sign. It also is the symbol for the ram, or the ram is the symbol for Aries, rather. And it is associated with the head and face. And the reason why that is important is if you get into medical astrology, you're going to want to understand what energy, what body parts each sign is associated with, so that you can begin to look at potential problems, medical problems in a chart, or transits by transit, what's occurring at real time and how that's hitting a chart, what could potentially be afflicted. But Aries energy is passionate and energetic. It is very much a go, start kind of kind of vibe to it, but they can be a bit hot-headed. They can be very centered around themselves. Because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, it's kind of like the me first. I go first. So when we come to, for example, an Aries moon, there is the association of selfishness with an Aries moon. What I often see with Aries moon, though, is that their temper is relatively easily roused, but just as quickly as it goes way up to 100, it drops back down fairly quickly. So we think about that blending of the planet and the sign. For example, Venus, an Aries Venus. When somebody wants and values love and material things in an Aryan way, they're going to crave excitement. They're going to want novelty. They're going to want passion. So again, we have to always take into account what planet are we talking about when we look at these signs. So Taurus. Taurus is a fixed sign. It's an earth sign, and it is ruled by the planet Venus. Venus is the Roman name for the Greek goddess Aphrodite. You may remember beauty and love. And it is the body part is the throat, and the symbol for it is the bull. Remember, it is fixed, right? So this is why Taurian people can get kind of pigeonholed into this like stubborn, bullheaded sort of idea of how they are. But because it is Venus ruled, but also Earth, we get very sensual people, very responsible, loyal, dependable kind of people. It can come across as indulgent, self-centered as far as I just want to do what feels good. But again, this is very much going to depend on other things in the chart. So we don't want to ever just associate a negative trait just across the board with any sign and any placement until we look and see how everything else in the chart is cooperating with that particular placement, with that planet that's in that sign. So with Taurus being Venus ruled and Earth, Venus and Taurus is going to operate very well. It's going to be a pleasing, less challenging placement to have Venus, for example, in Taurus. But when we get to a planet like Mars that is hot and fiery and passionate and about our drive, Taurus and Mars energy, so Mars and Taurus energy, cannot always be such a good thing. They can be a bit lazy. Again, we have to check everything in the chart. They can continue on in a particular path when it's not worth it anymore. Like the people that want to continue working at a job that they hate just because they're used to it. That can be a Taurian quality as well. So always take into account what planet we're talking about. So we'll go to Gemini. Gemini being air energy, ruled by Mercury. So Mercury is also, so the Greek god is Hermes. So Mercury is the Roman name. They essentially adopted all the Greek gods. And Hermes was the messenger god. He was the guy with the little wings on his shoes. And so we get travel, we get communication, we get curiosity, we get messages. And the thing that it's associated with is the hands, the arms, and the legs, and the symbol for it is the twins. And so Gemini gets a little bit of a bad rep here for that twin thing, because people will say that their personality can swing from one thing to another, that they can be two-faced. But there is no one sign that can say something like that about a person. We have to, again, look at the rest of the chart. So don't get too bogged down in the, okay, I see something in Gemini, so therefore this person is going to be that way. So they're very curious. It's very curious, especially if we're talking about Mercury or the rising sign or the sun. Curious, intelligent, talkative, very, very talkative. Again, depending on which planet we're discussing. I actually love Gemini rising. The Gemini ascendant is one of my favorites because they just have so much energy and they give such good reactions. They're so enthusiastic. they're so exuberant, and they just approach the world with this highly curious type of energy where they just want to know about everything. So they'll listen to everybody talk about stuff, and they'll ask really good questions. They can be a lot of fun at a party, Gemini rising people. Very witty and charming, okay? But with that, very they can be very wishy-washy. That energy can come across as inconsistent, as impulsive. Manipulative, yes, simply because they are so intelligent. Broadly speaking, this sign is an intelligent sign. So it can be manipulative, but there are a ton of things in a chart that can be considered manipulative placements and aspects, and we can discuss that later. So Cancer is a crab. And this is probably the best way to think about how this sign operates. Is a crab has a tough exterior. They have a tough shell, and they have these little pinchers to defend themselves. But inside it is soft. So they have this hard shell to protect that soft inner core. Cancer is also associated with the breasts and the womb. So this is the maternal energy of the zodiac, and the moon is a very feminine planet, luminary. I suppose I shouldn't say planet, but the moon is associated with the feminine, and our moon cycles, our menstrual cycles as women, it is all very mothery. And there are kind of two sides. Think about mother energy. Mother energy is, we have this stereotype, I suppose we can say, or this, there's a different word I'm looking for, but this archetype, there we go, of the mother. And mother can be the one that bakes cookies and, you know, it gives big hugs and snuggles and reads books. And that's the softness, that you can get that kind of soft, nurturing energy from Cancer. But you also think about the other archetype we have of mother as mama bear. Somebody that if you mess with her young, she's going to take you out by, you know, just like rip open a jugular, right? And so Cancer people, same. They are very protective of the people that they love. So you don't mess with a Cancer. The other thing, just because they're soft and sweet and have that association, does not mean that you should poke the bear. Don't poke the bear with Cancer. Another thing about that I have personally learned with Cancer is they are very sensitive. They don't like to tell you what has hurt their feelings. Oftentimes they don't want to talk about it until they're really ready, and they may never be ready. It's up to them. But they hold on to their hurt. So we talk about Scorpio as being vengeful and all of that, and that's true, but Cancer, they are the grudge holders, okay? So that nurturing, loving, empathetic, you know, high EQ, emotional intelligence, but also moody, mood swings. We think about mood swings, dramatic, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he did this to me or she did this to me. And they can be evasive, like we were talking about a second ago, with not wanting to tell you what's wrong. Okay, Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun, and the sun brings life to everything. This is the masculine energy that shines down on our earth, and nothing grows without the sun. It is associated with the lion, so that bravery, that big mane that expresses itself very loudly. And when I think of Leo, expression is a huge word that I go to. Also, because Leo is in charge of the heart and the spine, you think about somebody with backbone and heart. So they're not the warrior that's just fighting because they fight. They are the warrior that fights from a place of what they believe in. And it's very loving people. They're incredibly generous. Now, when I'm saying they, you guys hear me saying they are, these people are. And I know we're all going back to like the sun sign. But don't do that. Just remember, this is the energy of each sign that we can apply to each placement. So think about this generous, expressive, creative energy. They are pretty easygoing, usually fairly confident. Leo rising people, you can usually pick them out of a crowd because They usually have quite the mane of hair. A lot of times blondes are Leo rising, especially if they have like something that stands out about their blonde hair, like it's like white blonde, or it's really big, or something of that nature, like, you know, very, very full, voluminous hair. Okay, but the negatives of Leo is I have this list here, but I'm going to tell you my personal experience because you can read the list, okay? The negatives of Leo are that they do need that admiration or appreciation. So while they are incredibly generous, I mean, they're ruled by they rule the heart. So, you know, like think of the bleeding heart or the big heart, that's Leo. But if they don't get appreciation, then that really wounds them. It's not that they're vain or attention seeking. Most Leo people, Leo energy people are not, unless they just had an excessive amount. But that also doesn't mean that they're vain or that they're arrogant. It just means that they want that appreciation. So, great example, my son, who is just about 9 at the making of this video, has a Leo stellium, meaning he has multiple planets in Leo. And he does like attention. He does like to be appreciated. He does like, you know, when his art to be like, oh, this is such a great job. He loves that. But he knows how to do it in a way that is not me. It's not a selfishness. It's just a like, hey, I love when you show me love. I love when you show me attention. I love when you show me appreciation. He values that more. But it's not that he's like, look at me, I'm so great. So I want you to erase that Leo is arrogant and cocky and whatever. Erase that out of your head. That is not all Leo. And if you're sitting here going, oh, I know a Leo and they're like that, or any of these signs that I say, don't just think that way. Understand that you are making a huge generality. And if you want to be a professional astrologer, or even just do astrology and do charts for people, you're going to have to, I don't want to say erase those. I don't want to say misconceptions. I want to say don't erase, you have to erase those misconceptions. And I'm like, okay, you're going to have to remove some of your bias and also look at other things in the chart, or you're going to be so narrowly focused that you're not going to get the chart right. You're not going to get the person right. So just keep that in mind. Virgo is also ruled by Mercury. And again, Mercury is the messenger god, Hermes. So we also have that airy kind of thinking energy, although this is an earth sign. So what happens when we put a travel-y, communicate-y planet in earth as an element? Well, we're going to get somebody who's much more focused on logic and practicality. But the symbol for Virgo is the Virgin, and it is in charge of the digestive system. You will often note that people who have strong Virgo in their chart will often have some GI issues, okay, somewhere in their digestive tract, or they just might have a little bit more sensitive digestive system. But they are quite logical and modest, and they're very hardworking. They have a very consistent kind of, let's do it this way. Very perfectionistic. They don't all do things the same way, but they have their way that they want it done. It might not even be that they love doing what they're doing, but they know that it's on the checklist, and so they know that they have to get it done. So I myself am a 0 degree Virgo rising, and when we get into critical degrees later you'll understand why the 0 degree is very important. But it means that my approach, my ascendant is Virgo, but that I'm just coming into that Virgo energy. So I really am going to have my way that I want things done, but it's not going to always be so practical and well thought out and organized as somebody who doesn't have that 0 degree Virgo rising. They might be a little bit better at that consistency. The other thing with Virgo is they're detail oriented, so they notice everything. If you are having somebody with a lot of Virgo, especially if there's Virgo in their big 3, Virgo Mars, I mean, like, just really honestly, any Virgo placement. If you're having some Virgo person over to your home, If you think they're not going to notice that dust bunny in the corner, you're wrong. Virgo Venus, for example, Virgo is associated with service. Okay, so it is very much a service-based sign. And so if we have how we love in a service-based sign, Virgo Venus people are going to often show their love by doing things for you. And they're going to also like when you do something for them, especially if it's something practical. Like, I need my yard mowed. That would be a great way to show a Virgo person that you love them and that you want to take care of them. They would appreciate that greatly. It's not necessarily that they want you to give them a bunch of gifts, because gifts are not so practical, and Virgo really appreciates the practical. They can worry quite a bit because when we have this analytical mind, we can go over everything 6 ways to Sunday, and that can be frustrating. The other thing is they can be nitpicky because of that detail-oriented energy. Libra. Okay, so Libra is an air sign as well. It's the scales of balance are a great way to think about Libra, because Libra really desires the scales to be balanced. They desire fairness and diplomacy. And this is ruled by, Venus is the ruler of Libra as well, also Taurus. But you will see the beauty qualities come out stronger with Libra, especially a rising Libra. You'll see that stronger than Taurus, because that Taurus energy for Venus tends to ground it. It tends to be more like the girl or boy next door, the earthy beauty. And the Venus in Libra is more of what we associate with that glossed over, maybe photoshopped type of beauty. Libra rising, most of the time, they are going to be attractive people. And even if they're not conventionally attractive, they will have a very diplomatic, pleasing, easy to get along with demeanor. People really like Libra rising people for the most part. They tend to find themselves in a lot of management positions because of their good people skills. And it's associated with the bladder and the kidneys. And this refined, sophisticated, this is the refined, sophisticated side of Venus. Whereas like the Taurus is the earthy, the more like, let's decorate our home and let's eat good food and drink good wine. Venus in Libra, the Libra energy here, you're going to get more of that high society kind of energy, that cleaned up, that refined, that sophisticated couture side of expression of Venus. But because they are so much about the scales being equal, they have a reputation for never being able to make a decision, or being sometimes like Mercury. Put Mercury in Libra, for example, how we could think and communicate. And Mercury in Libra, it's not even that they just can't make a decision, which can be true, but it's that they are back and forth all the time. What's going to be good for everyone? What's the most fair thing? What's the right thing? Should I be kind or should I be honest? You know, is being right the best thing, or is everybody being happy the right thing? This is something that Mercury in Libra will wrestle with quite a bit. But they can also seem quite flighty and superficial. Vapid is the word that comes to mind for me, where if we have, especially some of our planets that have to do with more depth, like our moon, for moon definitely, Mercury as well, but you tend to get, it almost comes across like they're airheads. And it's not that they're stupid at all. At all. That's not what it is. And that's not what I'm saying. So please don't hear, if you have those, please don't get mad at me, Libra placement people. It's more that they just want things to be easy. They want everybody to get along. They don't want to get dragged down in the muck of things. It's like, okay, this is a hard feeling. This is a hard situation. Like, where's the exit? When we take a planet like Mars, which is a warrior planet, and we stick it in a sign like Libra, where it's in, is it in its fall or detriment? I'm going to have to look at it, but doesn't do well there. Okay. What happens when you have how you go about getting things done and your sense of aggression and assertion in such a everything should be fair? Well, for one, they don't really like to fight. They usually will let things go and let things go and let things go and let things go until suddenly it's just like, bleh. And you're like, oh my God, what happened? Why are you mad? And it's not even like they've been storing it up. They're not even storing up resentment. It's just that they kept letting it go. It didn't even bother them. But then it was like all of a sudden it registered and they're like, holy shit, this was making me mad. The other thing is passive aggressive, because when we have those scales, the back and forth, that balance, I guess this can be true for Gemini, Mars and Gemini as well, but that passive aggressiveness can come out. Scorpio, the best sign. I'm kidding, the worst sign. I can say that because I have a stellium. I have 5 planets in Scorpio. I am very, very Scorpio, and let me just tell you, it is not an easy energy, because here we have this deep, heavy, intense sign that is ruled by Mars in ancient astrology or traditional astrology. Then when we found out, oh, there's more planets, Pluto in modern astrology, we have the warrior planet paired with the god of the underworld. Pluto is Hades. And this intense deconstruction of everything. Scorpio wants to deconstruct and understand everything on its deep core true level. It is associated with the pubic region, so the genitals, the anus, which is where Scorpio kind of gets a reputation for being highly sexed, very sexual beings. You do need to look at what planets we're talking about, okay? You cannot just assess that, hey, they have a sun in Scorpio, they love sex. Not necessarily the case. The other thing, though, on that note is because Scorpio wants depth, that they want intensity so very much. Sure, Scorpio energy, does Scorpio like sex? Yes. Do they want to have sex with everybody? Absolutely not, because that would be too basic for them. That would not provide the depth that their sign energy seeks. So very passionate, very powerful, discerning, investigative, intuitive, tough people. But because we're dealing with Pluto, which is intensity, and again, like I said, the god of the underworld, that goes, down into the taboo stuff, right? Like death, where everybody is like everybody and everything is laid bare. We can get obsessive, jealous, secretive. Okay, so here's the thing. Scorpio doesn't necessarily mean to be secretive, but because Scorpio values power so very much, knowledge is power. And so if they tell you everything about themselves, they can feel like they're making themselves vulnerable and therefore weak. So if a Scorpio, somebody with particularly Scorpio moons, if they show you their vulnerabilities, their emotional self, if they cry in front of you, if I cry in front of you, you are in the inner circle, or I just had a terrible thing happen to me, one of the two, because that's not something that they like to do. I get freaked out when I start crying at a funeral. Like, who doesn't cry at a funeral? But I'm like, I don't want anybody to see me crying. They are very possessive. And that's because they want that, it's all about that depth that they want, but it's also about the power. Scorpio energy is a bit power obsessed. And I don't mean power like political power, although that can be the case. I mean, they want their own personal power. They don't want you infringing upon their personal power. They also desire to not look weak. So again, depending on the placement, we just don't like looking weak. Just keep that in mind. The vengefulness. So Scorpio is not, by and large, a grudge holder. They're more of like the don't get mad, get even kind of people. And this is the lower vibration of Scorpio. So there's always a low and a high vibration of every sign. And people have their worst ways of acting and their best ways of acting. But in their worst times, it's kind of like, well, you hurt me, so I'm going to show you. Okay, so you do keep that in mind. All right. Oh, and I'll tell you one of my favorite little fun things. So Mars rules Aries by day, and it rules Scorpio by night. And I always say, here's the difference. If you piss off an Aries, you're going to see him coming. The raging bull is going to come at you red-faced and steam coming out of their head, and you are going to know you stepped in it. But by night, Mars ruling Scorpio by night, often you won't know how badly you pissed them off until you've already been hit in the back of the head with the shovel and your body is buried 6 feet under. Like, you're not going to see it coming. Okay, let's get a little lighter. Sagittarius. Sagittarius came to us after Scorpio because everybody just needed a drink and needed to go party. Sagittarius is a fire sign, and it is the archer, the hunter. Sages like the hunt. They like the chase. Especially if you get like a Sag Venus, man. They like the hunt. It is associated with the planet, or ruled by the planet Jupiter, and Jupiter makes everything bigger. It's expansive. It is higher mind and learning and buoyancy and gregariousness. And so Sagittarius takes that on with their adventurous spirit, whether it's they want to travel or they want to, go do a ton of research. Like they're adventuring in their mind. They're traveling in their mind. They are very inspiring people. Now, I put honest on here, and I have a little caveat with that. I don't necessarily mean they are truth tellers. I mean it in the same way that I said blunt on the other side. Sagittarius isn't really concerned about how you feel about what they said. If they feel like that's the truth, they're going to just tell you the truth. And so they can be quite piercing with their words. I have a Mercury in Sagittarius, and it's something that I have had to work on, to not just blurt out whatever I'm thinking and go, okay, how can I say this in a way, or do I even need to say this? How can I not piss everybody off? They can be so self-righteous. This is just a truth, because they think that they are right. They are like, I've done all the research. I've looked into this. I want to know the truth. And so I looked into it. And so this is the right way to do it. Like, how dare you do this a different way? Boastful and reckless and immature. I mean, again, high vibration, low vibration. These things are always going to be depending upon the person. But, this is a mutable sign. And mutable, I told you about the flexibility, but also the flakiness sometimes. So consistency is a mature quality. It's a sign of maturity. And Sagittarius is a mutable sign, does not always have the most consistent approach, but again, we have to look at the whole chart. Okay, Capricorn. So Capricorn as an earth sign, it is ruled by Saturn. It's the goat. And Capricorn, they are hard workers. You will see a Capricorn, the midheaven ruled by Capricorn, or the rising sign ruled by Capricorn, in a lot of people that own their own businesses or are CEOs or CFOs or some higher type of position, because Capricorn will scale those heights, just like the goat, that they can go up this steep hillside. And you're like, how the hell did that goat even get up there? Because nothing is going to stop them when they set their mind on a goal. They are very disciplined, very resourceful. They have a ton of self-control. They can come across as cool, as cold, as hard. Just a hard, like, how do you hug a rock? It's not so much that they are that way. It's just they see an end game in mind. And I don't know that you should take this to the bank, but again, I'm going to tell you my opinion. I always say that Capricorn is just Earth Scorpio, because they are very private people as well. They are judicious about who they let in, and the skin and the bones is a big, that's a body part that they are associated with. Capricorn people tend to, like the bone is the last thing that breaks down when our bodies die. This is the longevity of Saturn, of Capricorn energy. In fact, a lot of Capricorn people, when they are younger, look older, and when they're older, they look younger. And there's two different symbols for Capricorn, and so I put them both on here. You'll see both of those in all textbooks and charts, so I want you to be familiar with both of those glyphs, the symbols over here on the right. The other thing I will say about Capricorn, especially when we get to the moon sign, because we're getting such a tough kind of coldness with Capricorn moon, it is not that they don't have feelings. They certainly do. They can just put that shit aside for what has to be done. So keep that in mind. It's not that they're cold and they don't feel anything, because that is the furthest thing from the truth. I actually think that they care very deeply, but they're not going to get stuck on the emotions when there's work to be done. All right, Aquarius. So Aquarius is the water bearer, and it starts with aqua. So why is it not a water sign? Well, they're the water bearer. And what this means is they put all of their feelings into a jar and they carry it elsewhere. Out of sight, out of mind. Okay, I like to dig on the signs a little bit. All right, so the modern ruler is Uranus, and the traditional ruler is Saturn. And I heard an astrologer say one time, when they think of Aquarius, or when people say Aquarius, talk about Aquarius, they say the New World Order. And this particular astrologer said, you heard the word new, which would be Uranus. He said, I heard the word order, which would be Saturn. And I think that very well summarizes Aquarius. They are not these rebels without a cause. They want to take a system that is broken and they want to have a revolution. They want to revitalize it. They want to advance it. They want it to be progressed. They're like the progressive, pushing things forward in human culture. Like the internet is a very Aquarian thing. Aquarius people are usually on it with technology, and they are on it with like fashion trends and songs that are just like the new thing. They're always on the new thing. They're extremely individualistic. It's like, I'm not going to be like anybody else. They're like going to do their own thing. But they're also, as unique as they are, very approachable, because nothing is weird to them. Everything is up for grabs. Like, okay, everything is just human nature. Aquarian people can generally jump from talking about politics to aliens and not bat an eye. The thing is, they are, because both Uranus and Saturn, neither of those are particularly warm, sweet planets. Saturn is Chronos, which is Father Time, and that's just not really about, Uranus is like forging into the future. So they're not so concerned about, like, are you sad today? It's just, they have a more detached, like, move on, get over it. This is like not what we need to be stressed out about in life. Like, there are people who don't have clean water to drink. Don't you care about that? So it can seem like they are unfeeling at times. That's, again, it's not the case. There is not a no feeling just based on a sign. But it is aloof, and it's not going to be the person that is always going to want to sit with you and hold you when you cry. Sometimes, yes, but they're going to have a limit to that before they go, okay, what are you going to do about it? They are contrary. So I heard this, my best friend, who's my mentor in astrology, she always says they're contrary. And I think that is such a good way to look at Aquarius, because they just sometimes want to like dig a little just to see what your reaction's gonna be. Like, they're not trying to piss you off. Like, they're just always gonna kind of want to do things their own way, and you either get on the boat or you're gonna get left behind. And then we have Pisces. Pisces is mutable water, and so that fluidity is there. It's ancient ruler is Jupiter, so that expansiveness, that knowledge. And their modern ruler is Neptune, which is Triton. It's, the god of the sea. And so we have those depths there. Neptune energy is very intuitive, very psychic. So Pisces people, especially moon in Pisces, certainly going to, and the rising sign, but certainly going to have a shit ton of intuition. If you find a chart, or if you have a chart that has a Pisces moon conjunct or trine, which those are aspects, we'll get to that later, to Neptune, you are going to find somebody who is hella psychic. Most Pisces moon people I know, and I know I'm going back to the moon and not the sun or other placements, but bear with me. Most Pisces moon people I know have had prophetic dreams in their life. Now, that's not to say other people, I have a Scorpio moon, I've had some prophetic dreams, but it's very, very common with Pisces moon people. And they rule the feet. They are intuitive, imaginative, spiritual, transformative, sacrificial. They feel for all of humanity. But they can also be hard to pin down. They can be slippery little things, slippery little fish, where you're like, okay, well, but do we make plans? Are we going to do that thing? It's not always the energy that's going to be consistent for planning things with. They'll get it done eventually, but they're classic procrastinators. Because they are so emotional. Now, keep in mind, depending on the placement, because they're so emotional, they can be quite touchy. So one of my best friends has a Pisces sun and an Aquarius moon. And she is not that touchy. Now, she has boundaries, but she's not going to just go cry over everything, because she's got that Aquarius moon. She can detach from it. So again, keep all of that in perspective. But Pisces, we have the people who will truly be there and sit with you in the dark places, because they are no stranger to the depths that the human soul can go to. And they will absolutely be the ones to hold you through it. Like Capricorn people, if you have a Capricorn friend, like they can pick you up and they can make sure that, you had enough to eat and drink that day and watch a movie with you. But the Pisces people, they'll sit down and cry with you. So these are the signs. Hopefully this helps. Remember, always, always, always take into account more than just the sign. Take into account the planet or luminary or placement that you're dealing with, the aspect and the house as well. And I will check in with you next time.